the courtroom doors opened, and Yoon Sung-hyun's world stopped completely. 3 years. 3 years since she walked out of his penthouse without a single word. 3 years since he woke up to empty closets and a note that said nothing except, "I'm sorry." 3 years of searching every corner of the city, hiring investigators, calling in favors from people who owed him their lives. And now she stood there, holding a baby. His lawyer was talking, probably saying something important about asset division. But Sung-hyun couldn't hear anything over the roaring in his ears. The woman he'd married in secret. The woman he'd loved more than his own dangerous life. The woman who vanished like smoke. She was here. Delilah Williams stood in the center of the courtroom wearing a simple blue dress, her dark skin glowing under the harsh fluorescent lights, and cradled against her chest was an infant wrapped in yellow blankets. "Mr. Yoon, did you hear me?" The judge's voice cut through his shock. Sung-hyun blinked. What? Your wife is requesting an uncontested divorce? Do you have any objections?" Wife. The word felt like broken glass in his chest. He stared at Delilah, but she wouldn't meet his eyes. Her gaze stayed fixed on some point past his shoulder, her jaw tight, her whole body radiating tension. The baby squirmed and made a small sound. "How old?" The words came out rougher than he intended. Delilah's lawyer stood up quickly. "Your Honor, that's not relevant to—" "How old?" Sung-hyun was on his feet now, his chair scraping against the floor. Every person in the courtroom flinched except Delilah. She finally looked at him, and her eyes were empty. Completely empty. Like she'd scraped out every feeling she'd ever had for him and buried it somewhere he'd never find it. 3 months, she said quietly. The math crashed through him like a freight train. 9 months before that was 6 months after she left, which meant, "We need a recess," his lawyer hissed, grabbing his arm. "Now." But Sung-hyun was already moving toward her. Security stepped forward, but one look from him made them hesitate. Nobody touched Yoon Sung-hyun, not in this city. Not when his name alone made powerful men nervous. He stopped 3 feet away from Delilah, his hands clenched so tight his knuckles went white. "Is that child mine?" Delilah's expression didn't change. "No. You're lying. The baby isn't yours, Sung-hyun. Sign the papers. Honey, let me go." Everything in him screamed that she was lying. The timing, the way she held that baby a little tighter when he got closer, the fear hiding behind that empty stare. But her words were steady and cold. "Your Honor," Delilah's lawyer interjected smoothly, "my client has been more than patient. Mr. Yoon was served papers 6 months ago and has avoided this proceeding repeatedly. She's asking for nothing. No alimony, no property, no claims against his assets. She just wants her freedom." 6 months. She'd filed 6 months ago and his people had hidden it from him. Someone in his organization had betrayed him, had kept this information buried while he turned the city upside down looking for her. He'd deal with that traitor later. "I'm not signing anything," Sung-hyun said flatly. "Not until you tell me the truth." "Wait, as it's getting intense, right?" "Welcome back, my besties. Want to know how this ends? Drop your location if you're already hooked and need to see what happens next. Subscribe so you don't miss a single twist. This story has layers you won't see coming. Comment your prediction below. How do you think this plays out? Let's see who can guess it before the ending drops. Keep watching. You're not ready for what comes next. Delilah's mask cracked, just for a second. Something desperate flashed across her face before she crushed it down. "There's nothing to tell. We made a mistake getting married. I fixed it by leaving. Now make it official." A mistake. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think 3 years ago was a mistake? You think what we had was nothing?" Her voice went sharp as a knife. "It was nothing, Sung-hyun. I was lonely in a foreign country and you were convenient. That's all. The courtroom went silent. Even the judge looked uncomfortable. Sung Hyun felt something crack inside his chest, something that had been holding together through 3 years of searching and hoping. Delilah's eyes were still empty, still lying. "Fine," he heard himself say. "If that's how you want to play this." He turned to his lawyer. "Give her everything. The apartment in Gangnam, the car, whatever money she wants. I don't care. Sir, you can't just—" "I said I don't care." Sung Hyun's voice dropped to a dangerous level. "But I want something in return." Delilah's arms tightened around the baby. "I'm not giving you 1 month," he cut her off. "Give me 1 month to change your mind. If after 30 days you still want this divorce, I'll sign without a fight. And you'll walk away with everything." "No. Those are my terms. Take them, or we'll be here for the next 5 years fighting over every single pen in that penthouse. Your choice." He watched her calculate, watched her realize he meant every word. Yoon Sung Hyun didn't make empty threats. In his world, you followed through, or you were dead. 2 weeks, Delilah countered. 1 month. 3 weeks. Final offer. Sung Hyun smiled, and it was the cold smile that made his enemies nervous. 3 weeks then, starting tomorrow. Your Honor, Delilah's lawyer was sputtering now. This is highly irregular. My client agrees, Sung Hyun's lawyer interrupted. He'd worked for the Yoon family long enough to know when to argue and when to shut up. We'll file for a continuance. The judge looked between them, and clearly wanting no part of whatever mess this was. 3 weeks. Then we reconvene and settle this one way or another. Dismissed. Sung Hyun watched Delilah gather her things with one hand, while balancing the baby with the other. She moved toward the exit, but he stepped into her path. I'll have a car pick you up tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I'm not going anywhere with you. Yes, you are. Or have you forgotten? You agreed to my terms. He leaned closer and dropped his voice so only she could hear. And Delilah, I'm going to prove that baby is mine. And when I do, you're going to tell me the real reason you ran. For just a moment, raw terror crossed her face. Then it was gone, and the mask was back. 9 a.m., he repeated. Don't make me come find you. He walked out of the courtroom without waiting for her response. His phone was buzzing before he reached the elevator. 8 missed calls from his brother, 3 from his business partners, 2 from his security chief. Everyone wanted to know why he'd just walked into a divorce court and agreed to hand over a fortune. None of them knew the truth. That 3 years ago, Yoon Sung Hyun had fallen completely and hopelessly in love with an African woman he'd met at a charity gala. That he'd married her in secret because his family would never approve, and her safety depended on nobody knowing she was connected to him. That she'd understood the danger, had promised she could handle it, had sworn she'd never leave. And then she did. His driver opened the car door, but Sung Hyun paused, looking back at the courthouse. Through the glass doors, he could see Delilah standing on the steps, the baby still in her arms. She was talking on her phone, and even from this distance, he could see her hand shaking. She was terrified. But of what? Of him? That didn't make sense. He'd never hurt her, never even raised his voice during their entire marriage. So what had scared her badly enough to make her disappear in the middle of the night? And whose baby was she really holding? His phone buzzed again. His brother, Sang-min. You've lost your mind, were the first words out of Sang-min's mouth. The entire organization is talking about how you just gave up millions to your ex-wife for 3 weeks of... What exactly? None of your concern. It is my concern when my brother makes decisions that affect the family business. Father is retired, and his opinion stopped mattering 2 years ago. Sung Hyun's voice went cold. Tell everyone to back off. This is personal. Personal? Sang-min laughed. Nothing is personal in our world, brother. You know that. Is this about that woman? The one you hid from everyone? Sung Hyun ended the call. His driver pulled away from the courthouse, but Sung-hyun kept his eyes on the rearview mirror, watching Delilah until she was just a distant figure on the steps. Tomorrow, he'd start getting answers. Tomorrow, he'd begin unraveling whatever web of lies she'd wrapped herself in. But tonight, he had a traitor to find. Delilah's apartment was in a neighborhood Sung-hyun didn't recognize, which meant she'd gone to significant effort to stay hidden. The building was old, but clean, the kind of place where people minded their own business and didn't ask questions. Smart. She'd learned from him after all. He knocked at 9 a.m. exactly. She opened the door, still in pajamas, the baby propped on her hip, her hair wrapped in a colorful scarf. She looked exhausted. Beautiful, but exhausted. "You're early," she said flatly. "I'm exactly on time. Can I come in?" "No." Sung-hyun raised an eyebrow. "We had an agreement." "The agreement was for 3 weeks. It didn't specify that you could invade my home." But she stepped aside anyway, probably because arguing in the hallway would attract attention. "Make it quick. She needs to eat." The apartment was tiny. 1 bedroom, maybe, with a kitchen barely bigger than a closet and a living room that could fit all its furniture twice over and still have space. It was a universe away from the penthouse they'd shared, with its floor-to-ceiling windows and marble everything. But it was warm. Lived in. There were photos on the walls. Delilah with people he didn't recognize, all of them laughing. None of the photos included him. "You've built a whole life," he said quietly. "One that doesn't have me in it." Delilah was already in the kitchen, preparing a bottle with one hand. "That was the point. Why? I already told you. You lied in that courtroom, and we both know it. So I'm asking again. Why?" She didn't answer, just tested the bottle temperature against her wrist. The baby started fussing, and Delilah sat down on the couch, settling the infant in her arms with practiced ease. It shocked him how natural she looked. The Delilah he'd known 3 years ago had been ambitious, driven, on building a career in international business. She'd talked about opening her own consulting firm, about making a mark in a city that hadn't wanted to give her a chance. She'd never mentioned wanting children. "What's her name?" he asked, sitting in the chair across from her. Delilah hesitated. "Jasmine." "Jasmine," he repeated. The baby had stopped fussing now, drinking from the bottle, her tiny hand curled against Delilah's finger. "She has your eyes. Most babies have dark eyes, but hers are shaped like yours. And her chin." He stopped. "She has my chin, Delilah. You're seeing what you want to see. Then let me do a DNA test." Delilah's whole body went rigid. "No." "Why not? If she's not mine like you claim, a test will prove it, and you can be done with me forever. Isn't that what you want? I'm not subjecting my daughter to medical procedures because you can't accept reality. A cheek swab isn't a medical procedure. It takes 5 seconds. The answer is no." Her voice was steel now. "Drop it, Sung-hyun." He studied her face, the dark circles under her eyes, the tension in her jaw, the way she held Jasmine like she expected someone to rip the baby away at any moment. This wasn't just about keeping him away. Delilah was running from something else, something bigger. "Who's the father, then?" he asked, changing tactics. "Someone I met after I left." "Name?" "None of your business." "Is he in the picture?" Delilah's laugh was bitter. "No. Turns out men don't stick around when things get complicated. Shocking, right?" The barb hit its target, but Sung-hyun didn't react. "I stuck around. You're the one who left. Because staying would have been—" She cut herself off, shaking her head. "This is pointless. What do you want, Sung-hyun? Really? You won in court. You got your 3 weeks. What's the end game here?" "The truth. The truth is boring. We got married too fast. Realized we didn't work, and I left. People do it every day. Not in the middle of the night. Not without taking any of their belongings. Not without leaving any way to contact them." He leaned forward. "You were scared." Something happened that made you run, and you won't tell me what." Delilah's hands trembled, just for a second. Then she carefully moved Jasmine to her shoulder and started patting her back. "Nothing happened. I couldn't do it anymore. The secrets, the hiding, the constant looking over my shoulder wondering if someone would figure out I was married to." She stopped. "To what? A criminal? A monster?" "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." Sung Hyun stood up, suddenly exhausted. "You think I don't know what people say about my family? You think I don't know that marrying me put you in danger? That's why we kept it secret, Delilah. That's why I had security following you every time you left the penthouse. Why I made sure nobody in my organization knew you existed. I was protecting you. Maybe I didn't want to need protecting." Her voice was small now. "Maybe I wanted a normal life. With someone else's baby. Yes." The lie hung between them like smoke. Sung Hyun wanted to push, wanted to break through her defenses until she told him everything. But Jasmine chose that moment to let out a loud burp, followed by crying. Delilah stood up immediately, bouncing the baby gently. "You should go," she said over Jasmine's wails. "She gets fussy, and I need to put her down for a nap." "When can I see you again?" "You can't. This was your visit. 3 weeks doesn't mean every day, Sung Hyun. Actually." He pulled out his phone and showed her the agreement his lawyer had drawn up. "It specifies reasonable access, which my lawyer defines as daily visits of at least 2 hours. You signed this yesterday." Delilah's face went pale as she read the document. You manipulated me." "I protected my interests. There's a difference." He headed for the door but turned back. "Tomorrow, same time. And Delilah, I meant what I said about proving Jasmine is mine, with or without your cooperation." He left before she could respond, taking the stairs instead of the elevator. His security team was waiting in 2 cars parked across the street, and he waved them off. He needed to think, needed to figure out his next move. His phone rang. Song Min again. "What?" "We found him. The one who hid the divorce papers from you." Sung Hyun's blood went cold. "Who?" "Lee Jun-ho, from legal. Apparently, he's been on someone else's payroll for the last year." Sang Min paused. "Brother, someone paid him specifically to keep you from knowing about the divorce. This wasn't random." "Where is he now?" "Secured. Waiting for you." Sung Hyun looked back up at Delilah's building. Her window was on the 3rd floor, and he could see her silhouette behind the curtains, holding Jasmine, rocking back and forth. And someone had paid to keep him in the dark about the divorce, which meant someone wanted Delilah free of him, but didn't want him to know about it until it was too late. Someone was protecting her, or controlling her. Maybe both. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he told Sung Min. "Don't let him leave." Wasn't planning on it. The drive across the city felt longer than usual. Sung Hyun's mind kept circling back to Delilah's face when he'd mentioned DNA testing. The fear in her eyes hadn't been about him discovering Jasmine was his daughter. It was something else, something deeper. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stay away from her, or you'll regret it." He stared at the message, his jaw clenching. Someone was watching. Someone knew he'd just left Delilah's apartment, which meant they'd been watching her too, maybe for months, maybe since the day she left him. He texted back, "Who is this?" No response. His security chief, Park Min-gi, met him in the underground garage of the building where they'd taken Lee Jun-ho. The man looked nervous, which was smart. People who betrayed the Yoon family didn't usually have long careers, or long lives. "He's been talking," Min-gi said as they walked. "Says a woman approached him 6 months ago with a very specific job. Keep any information about a divorce case away from you until it was finalized. Paid him enough to retire." "What woman?" "He doesn't know. Never saw her face. everything was done through encrypted messages. They reached the room where Junho was being held. The man looked terrible, his suit wrinkled, his face pale. When Sung Hyun walked in, he actually flinched. "I'm sorry," Junho said immediately. I needed the money, and she said it was just about delaying some paperwork, nothing serious." "How did she contact you?" Sung Hyun kept his voice level. Calm, more threatening than if he'd shouted. "Anonymous email, then burner phones. She knew things, though. Things about the organization, about your personal life. She knew you'd been searching for someone. A woman." Junho swallowed hard. "She said if I kept the divorce papers buried, she'd make sure I got out of all of this alive. Said you were dangerous, but she was worse." Sung Hyun felt ice creep down his spine. "She said she was worse than me?" Not exactly. She said the people she worked for were worse, that they'd already gotten to your wife, convinced her to leave, and now they were making sure she stayed gone." Junho was talking faster now, desperate. "I didn't ask questions. I just did what she told me. Took the divorce papers when they arrived, filed them incorrectly so they'd be delayed, made sure nothing reached you. For 6 months. Yes. And you never thought to tell me someone was threatening my wife." Junho looked at the floor. "I thought, maybe she wasn't really your wife. You never talked about being married. Nobody knew. I figured it was just some woman trying to get money from you." Sung Hyun wanted to break something, preferably Junho's face, but that wouldn't give him answers. "Did this woman say anything else? Give you any clue who she was working for?" "Just once, about 2 months ago, and she sent a message that said, 'The wolf is getting impatient.' I asked what that meant, and she told me to mind my own business." The wolf? Sung Hyun knew exactly one person who used that nickname. Leilani Laurent, a French business mogul who controlled half the shipping in East Asia and had a reputation for destroying anyone who got in her way. He'd turned down a business deal with her 4 years ago, called her practices unethical, refused to let the Yoon family be associated with her operations. She'd smiled and said someday he'd regret that decision. "Get him out of here," Sung Hyun told Min-gi. "Put him on a plane to anywhere that isn't here. If I see his face again, I won't be responsible for what happens." Junho scrambled out of the room like his life depended on it, which it probably did. Sang Min was waiting in the hallway. "So? What did he say?" "Leilani Laurent." His brother's face went dark. That's a problem." "You think? If she's involved, this is bigger than we thought. She doesn't just mess with people's personal lives for fun. There's always a reason, always a bigger game." Sang Min pulled out his own phone. "I'll start digging, see what she's been up to for the last few years. But brother, if she got Delilah to leave you, if she's been controlling this situation from the start, then Delilah's in more danger than she knows," Sung Hyun finished. "And I need to figure out what Leilani wants before anyone gets hurt." He left the building and drove straight back to Delilah's apartment. It was only noon, but he didn't care about their schedule anymore. If someone like Leilani Laurent was involved, every second mattered. This time, Delilah looked actually angry when she opened the door. "I said tomorrow, not, we need to talk. Now." He pushed past her into the apartment. "And this time, you're going to tell me the truth about why you left." "I already told you." "Leilani Laurent." He watched her face. "Does that name mean anything to you?" Delilah went absolutely still. The color drained from her face. How do you know that name?" "So, she is involved. Delilah, tell me what she did. Tell me what she threatened you with." But Delilah was backing away now, shaking her head. "You need to leave. Right now. If she finds out you're asking about her, she already knows. She's had people watching us since the divorce filing, probably before that." Sung Hyun closed the distance between them. "What does she want?" I can't tell you. She said if I told anyone." Delilah's eyes were filling with tears. "She'll take Jasmine. She has connections everywhere, lawyers, judges, people who can make me look unfit. She'll take my baby, and I'll never see her again. Everything clicked into place. The sudden departure, the refusal to let him find her, the determination to get a fast divorce. Leilani had threatened Delilah's child. Their child, because there was no doubt in his mind now that Jasmine was his daughter. "When did she first contact you?" he asked gently. 3 years ago, right after I found out I was pregnant." Delilah wiped her eyes angrily. "She showed up at a coffee shop where I was meeting a friend, knew everything, where I lived, who I was married to, what I had for breakfast that morning. She said you'd refuse to work with her, and she didn't forget slights like that. What did she want? Information at first, about your business operations, your security protocols, access codes to your buildings. I said no. Told her I didn't know anything anyway because you kept me separate from all of that." Delilah's voice cracked. Then she said fine. If I wouldn't help her, she'd make sure I regretted it. She had photos of me leaving the hospital after confirming the pregnancy. She said children were so fragile, so easy to lose. Sung-hyun felt rage building in his chest. "So you ran. What else could I do? If I stayed, she'd hurt the baby to get to you. If I told you what was happening, you'd go after her, and she'd retaliate. The only option was to disappear, make you think I didn't want you anymore, so you'd stop looking." Delilah was crying openly now. "I've been hiding for 3 years, Sung-hyun. Changing apartments every few months, using fake names, avoiding cameras. I filed for divorce 6 months ago, hoping it would finally convince her I was no use to her anymore. But it didn't work. She called me 2 weeks ago, said she was glad I was finally making it official, but she wanted to make sure the divorce went through fast. No complications. No reconciliation." Delilah looked at him with desperate eyes. "That's why I lied in court. Why I said Jasmine wasn't yours. Because if Leilani thinks there's still a connection between us, she won't stop. She'll keep coming after me, after our daughter, until she gets what she wants. Which is revenge. No, you humiliated her 4 years ago when you turned down her deal. She wants to destroy you the same way, by taking everything you love." Sung-hyun pulled Delilah into his arms and felt her collapse against him, sobbing. He'd spent 3 years angry, thinking she'd abandoned him for no reason. But she'd been protecting their child the only way she knew how. The bravest, most impossible way. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry I left. I'm sorry I lied. But I couldn't let anything happen to Jasmine. I know. He held her tighter. "But you're not alone anymore. We're going to fix this. You can't. She's too powerful. She has people everywhere. And I have more." He pulled back to look at her. "Leilani Laram might be dangerous, but she's not untouchable. Nobody is. So we just need to find her weakness. She doesn't have weaknesses. That's what makes her so terrifying." From the bedroom, Jasmine started crying. Delilah immediately pulled away, wiping her face. "I need to check on her. I'll come with you." The nursery was barely big enough for a crib and changing table, but Delilah had made it work. There were hand-painted stars on the ceiling, and a mobile with little animals hanging over the crib. Jasmine was awake now, her face red from crying. Delilah picked her up and the baby immediately settled. "Can I hold her?" Sung-hyun asked quietly. Delilah hesitated, then carefully transferred Jasmine into his arms. She was so small, so fragile. He'd held babies before, his cousins' children, his brother's kids. But this was different. This was his daughter, his and Delilah's, the tiny person they'd created together. Jasmine looked up at him with dark eyes, studying his face. Then she yawned and her little fist closed around his finger. "She likes you," Delilah said softly. "She should. I'm her father." He glanced at Delilah. "I am, aren't I?" "Yes. I'm sorry I lied about that too. But I was scared." "Stop apologizing. You did what you had to do." He rocked Jasmine gently, and she closed her eyes. "But from now on, we do this together. I'm not letting Leilani Laurent or anyone else threaten my family. She'll retaliate. The moment she realizes you're back in my life, let her try." Sung Hyun's voice went hard. "I've been playing nice for too long, avoiding conflict because I thought it would keep people safe. But Leilani crossed a line when she went after you and Jasmine. And now she gets to find out what happens when you make Yoon Sung Hyun angry." Delilah looked scared, but also hopeful. Like maybe, finally, she could stop running. Sung Hyun spent the next 3 days putting together a plan. It wasn't enough to just protect Delilah and Jasmine. He needed to make sure Leilani Laurent could never threaten them again, which meant digging up everything he could about her operations and finding something she valued enough to trade for his family's safety. Sang-min helped, calling in favors from contacts across Asia and Europe. What they found was worse than expected. Leilani didn't just run shipping companies. She had her fingers in human trafficking, money laundering, illegal weapons trading. Things that made the Yoon family's gray market businesses look like charity work. She's untouchable because she has dirt on everyone, Sang-min explained, spreading documents across the conference table. Politicians, judges, law enforcement. Anyone who tries to expose her finds themselves suddenly facing corruption charges or worse. "There has to be something," Sung Hyun insisted. "Nobody's that clean." "She's not clean. She's just protected." Sang-min pulled up a file on his laptop. "But there's one person she's vulnerable through, her daughter." "She has a daughter?" 23 years old, lives in Switzerland. Leilani keeps her completely separate from the business, sends her money every month, but they barely speak. Rumor is the daughter wants nothing to do with her mother's operations. Sang-min looked at his brother. If we could get the daughter to testify about what she knows." "No," Sung Hyun shook his head. "We're not dragging someone's kid into this. That's exactly what Leilani did to us, and I won't become her." "Then what's your plan? Because right now she's holding all the cards." Sung Hyun stared at the files. There had to be another way. Something that would neutralize Leilani without putting innocent people at risk. Then he saw it. A small note in one of the reports about a shipping container that had gone missing 3 months ago. Container was full of rare artifacts Leilani had acquired illegally, worth over $50 million. She'd been quietly searching for it ever since. "What if we found what she's looking for?" Sung Hyun said slowly. "Or used it as leverage." "You mean steal from Leilani Laurent?" Sang-min looked impressed and terrified. "That's actually not a terrible idea. But we'd need to find the container first. Leave that to me." He spent the next week following leads while also visiting Delilah and Jasmine every day. Watching his daughter grow, even in such a short time, felt like witnessing a miracle. She started smiling, reaching for things, making sounds that weren't quite words, but might be someday. And Delilah? She was warming to him again, slowly, carefully. But it was happening. "You don't have to keep coming," she said one afternoon, while he was feeding Jasmine a bottle. "The 3 weeks are almost up. I know you have more important things. There's nothing more important than this." He didn't look away from Jasmine. "Did you mean what you said in court? That being with me was a mistake?" Delilah was quiet for a long time. "No. Being with you was the best thing that ever happened to me. That's why leaving hurts so much." "Then don't sign the divorce papers." "Sung Hyun, I mean it. When we go back to court, tell the judge you changed your mind. Stay married to me. Let me protect you properly this time." It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You love me. I love you. We have a daughter together. Everything else is just noise. He finally looked at her. "Unless you really don't want to be with me anymore." "Of course I want to be with you," Delilah said, frustrated. "But wanting something doesn't make it safe. Leilani will be handled. I promise you that." He shifted Jasmine to his shoulder. "Just Give me until the court date. If I can't fix this by then, I'll sign the papers and let you go. But if I can make it safe for us to be together again, will you stay?" Delilah's eyes were shining. "You really think you can stop her?" "I know I can." It took another week, but he finally tracked down the missing container. It was in a warehouse at the docks, hidden behind false paperwork and mislabeled manifests. Inside were enough stolen artifacts to put Leilani away for decades if the right authorities got involved, which gave him exactly the leverage he needed. He arranged a meeting in a neutral location, a restaurant that was closed for renovations. Just him, Leilani, and his security team stationed outside. She showed up exactly on time, wearing white and smiling like they were old friends. "Yoon Sung-hyun," she said in accented English. "I wondered when you'd finally come talk to me. You know why I'm here. Your wife and child, yes. I must say, I'm impressed she kept them hidden for so long. But then, she learned from the best." Leilani sat across from him. "What do you want?" "Simple. You leave my family alone. Completely. Forever. No more threats, no more surveillance, no more contact of any kind. And in exchange?" He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos of the artifacts in the warehouse, along with detailed records of how Leilani had acquired them. "I give you this instead of giving it to Interpol?" Leilani's smile faded. She opened the folder, and her expression went cold. "You've been busy. You threatened my daughter. Did you think I'd just accept that? I thought you'd be smart enough to stay away from Delilah like I told you to. But apparently love makes even dangerous men stupid." She closed the folder. "Fine. Your family is off limits. But if you ever come after me again, I won't need to, because you're going to stay far away from anything involving the Yoon family." Sung-hyun leaned forward. "And if I even suspect you're breaking our agreement, those files go public, along with everything else I've dug up about your operations in the last 2 weeks." They stared at each other, two predators sizing up the threat. Finally, Leilani stood. "You've got more spine than I expected. Maybe I should have worked with you 4 years ago after all. You should have left my family alone. Probably." She headed for the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I respect what you did, protecting the people you love at all costs. Not many men in our world have that quality anymore. I'm not like other men in our world." "No," Leilani agreed. "You're not. That's what makes you dangerous." She left, and Sung-hyun finally let himself breathe. It was done. Leilani would keep her word, because the alternative was losing everything. And now he could go get his family. The court date arrived, and Sung-hyun showed up early, wearing his best suit, his lawyer beside him. Delilah came in 10 minutes later with Jasmine, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't look scared. She looked free. "Your Honor," her lawyer started, "my client would like to—" "Withdraw the divorce petition," Delilah interrupted. "I'm withdrawing it." The courtroom went silent. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Ms. Williams, are you certain? Last time you were quite adamant. I was wrong. I want to stay married." She looked at Sung-hyun and smiled. A real smile, the kind he hadn't seen in 3 years. "If my husband will still have me." "Always," he said quietly. The judge looked between them, clearly confused by the sudden change, but not willing to argue. "Very well. Petition dismissed. This case is closed." Outside the courthouse, Delilah handed Jasmine to her friend, who'd been watching from the back row. Then she turned to Sung-hyun, and for a moment, they just looked at each other. 3 years of pain and separation and fear hanging between them. "I'm sorry I didn't trust you to fix it," she said finally. "I thought running was the only option. I'm sorry I didn't see what was happening sooner. I should have known something was wrong when you left." He reached for her hand. "But we're done apologizing now. We're just moving forward. Together? Together. She stepped into his arms, and he held her like he'd wanted to for 3 years. She felt smaller than he remembered, like the fear had worn her down. But she was here. She was his. And he was never letting go again. "Take me home," Delilah whispered. "The real home. The penthouse. I'm done hiding." They picked up Jasmine and drove across the city to the building Delilah had left 3 years ago. Nothing had changed. Sung-hyun had kept everything exactly how she had left it, like a shrine to what they'd lost. Her books were still on the shelves, her photos still on the walls, even her favorite coffee mug sat in the kitchen cabinet. "You kept it all," she said, walking through the rooms with tears in her eyes. "I kept hoping you'd come back." In the nursery Heat had prepared, so there was everything a baby could need. Sung-hyun had started setting it up the day after the first court hearing, even when he wasn't sure Delilah would let him be part of Jasmine's life. Just in case. "You were that confident?" Delilah asked, looking at the elaborate crib and matching furniture. "I was that hopeful." She put Jasmine down for a nap, and they stood watching their daughter sleep. The baby looked peaceful, unaware that her whole world had just changed, that she'd gone from a tiny apartment and a mother who was always scared to a penthouse with 2 parents who would protect her with everything they had. "What happened with Leilani?" Delilah asked quietly. "You never told me the details." "I convinced her that leaving us alone was in her best interest, and she won't be a problem anymore." "Just like that?" "Just like that." Delilah turned to look at him. "You're not telling me something." "I'm telling you everything that matters, which is that you and Jasmine are safe. The rest is just business." He touched her face gently. "No more looking over your shoulder. No more running. I promise." "You can't promise that. Things happen in your world." "Our world," he corrected. "And yes, things happen. But we face them together from now on. No more secrets. No more separation." He pulled her closer. "I love you, Delilah. I never stopped. These 3 years without you were the worst of my life. I love you too. So much that leaving almost killed me." She was crying again, but this time they were happy tears. "So I missed you every single day." They stood there, holding each other while Jasmine slept, and outside the floor-to-ceiling windows the city spread out like it was just for them. Sung-hyun thought about everything they'd been through, everything they'd survived, and realized that maybe that Leilani had actually done them a favor. She'd tested their love, and it had survived. They'd survived. And now, nothing could break them apart. Sang-min showed up that evening with food and gifts for the baby. He took one look at his brother and Delilah standing together and grinned. "So I guess I should plan a welcome-back party?" "No parties," Sung-hyun said firmly. "I want time with my family." "Your family," Sang-min repeated, looking at Jasmine. "I still can't believe you've been a father for 3 months and didn't tell anyone." "Nobody knew," Delilah explained. "That was the whole point." "Well, now everyone's going to know. The entire organization is talking about how the boss got his wife back." Sang-min paused. "Father wants to meet her. And the baby." Sung-hyun's expression darkened. "Absolutely not. He's her grandfather. He's the reason I had to keep Delilah secret in the first place. He made it very clear 3 years ago that my marriage wasn't acceptable. So, no, he doesn't get to suddenly play happy family now." Delilah touched his arm. "Maybe we should at least talk to him. I don't want Jasmine growing up surrounded by family drama. You don't know what you're asking. I know I spent 3 years keeping secrets, and it almost destroyed us. I don't want our daughter raised in that kind of fear." She looked at Sang-min. "Will he actually want to meet us, or is this just politics?" Sang-min hesitated. "Honestly, I think he regrets how he handled things 3 years ago. He's been different since you left," he said to Sung-hyun. "Quieter. Less involved in the business. Like he realized he pushed you too hard and lost something important." "Good," Sung-hyun said coldly. But later, when Delilah brought it up again, he found himself wavering. Because she was right. He didn't want Jasmine growing up in a family torn apart by grudges and old wounds. He wanted better for her. One meeting, he finally agreed. But the second he says anything I don't like, we're done. Fair enough. The meeting with his father happened at the family estate, a sprawling property outside the city that Sung Hyun hadn't visited in over a year. His father, Yoon Tae-sung, was waiting in the garden, looking older than Sung Hyun remembered. Smaller somehow. Delilah carried Jasmine, and Sung Hyun kept his arm around her waist, presenting a united front. Whatever happened here, they were facing it together. Tae-sung stood when he saw them. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then his gaze dropped to Jasmine, and something in his face softened. "She looks like you did," he said to Sung Hyun, "when you were a baby. Same eyes, same serious expression." "This is Delilah," Sung Hyun said, ignoring the observation. "My wife. And this is Jasmine, your granddaughter." "May I?" Tae-sung gestured toward the baby. Delilah looked at Sung Hyun, who nodded slightly. She carefully transferred Jasmine into the older man's arms. He held her awkwardly at first, like he'd forgotten how to hold babies, then more naturally. Jasmine grabbed his finger, and he actually smiled. "I was wrong," Tae-sung said without looking up. 3 years ago, when I told you that marrying outside the family was unacceptable. I was wrong." Sung Hyun blinked. His father never admitted being wrong, about anything. "I watched you search for her," Tae-sung continued. "Watched you tear apart the city looking for answers. Watched you become someone I barely recognized. And I realized that what I'd done, pushing you to keep your marriage secret, making you think you had to choose between family and love, that was cruel." He finally looked at Delilah. "I'm sorry, for whatever part I played in making you feel unwelcome." Delilah's voice was gentle. "You were protecting your family. I understand that." "No, I was protecting an outdated idea of what family should look like. But family is—" He looked down at Jasmine again. "Family is this. A father fighting for 3 years to find the woman he loves. A mother sacrificing everything to keep her child safe. That's what matters. Not bloodlines or traditions or business arrangements." "Are you dying?" Sung Hyun asked suspiciously. "Is that why you're suddenly so philosophical?" Tae-sung laughed, a sound Sung Hyun hadn't heard in years. "No, I'm not dying. I'm just tired. Tired of old grudges and stupid pride. Your brother told me what Leilani Laurent did, so how she threatened your family, and you handled it without any help from me." He handed Jasmine back to Delilah. "You're a better leader than I ever was. Better man, too. I learned from you." "You learned in spite of me. There's a difference." Tae-sung gestured to the house. "Come inside. Your mother has been cooking all morning, terrified that you'd refuse to visit. She wants to meet her granddaughter properly." The afternoon turned into evening. Sung Hyun's mother cried when she held Jasmine, talking about how beautiful she was, how perfect. Sang Min brought his own children over, and suddenly the house was full of noise and life. Delilah fit right in, laughing at stories about Sung Hyun as a child, sharing her own stories about growing up in a completely different world. At one point, Sung Hyun found himself alone with his father on the terrace. "She's good for you," Tae-sung observed. "Stronger than I expected. Most people would have crumbled under that kind of pressure, but she protected her child and found a way to survive. She's the strongest person I know." "Then don't make the mistakes I made. Don't let business or pride or fear get in the way of that love. Trust me, when you're my age, you'll regret every moment you wasted on things that didn't matter." Sung Hyun looked at his father. "Are you really retiring?" "I already did. 2 months ago. Your brother didn't tell you." Tae-sung smiled. "The family business is yours now. All of it. Make it something you can be proud of. I'm going to change things, clean up operations, move away from the gray areas. I know. That's why I'm giving it to you. Tae-sung clapped him on the shoulder. Make it better than I did. Give that little girl a family she doesn't have to hide from. Inside, Delilah was surrounded by family, Jasmine being passed from person to person like a precious treasure. She looked happy, completely, genuinely happy. And when she saw Sung-hyun watching her, she smiled and mouthed, "I love you." He mouthed it back. They drove home late that night, Jasmine asleep in her car seat, the city lights blurring past the windows. "Your family is wonderful," Delilah said softly. "Why were you so worried?" "Because I thought they'd make you feel unwelcome again, make you regret coming back." "Nothing could make me regret this." She reached over and took his hand. "We're home, Sung-hyun, really home. Not just a place, but us. Together. That's home." "Yeah," he agreed. "It is." At the penthouse, they put Jasmine to bed together. Sung-hyun stood watching his daughter sleep. This tiny person who'd changed everything, who'd brought him and Delilah back together through pain and fear and finally hope. "What are you thinking?" Delilah asked, leaning against him. "That 3 months ago, I thought my life was over, that I'd lost you forever and would spend the rest of my life wondering what I did wrong." He turned to face her. "And now you're here. Jasmine is here, and I get a second chance to do this right. We both get a second chance. Promise me something." He took both her hands. "Promise me if you're ever scared again, if anyone ever threatens you or Jasmine, you'll come to me first. No more running. I promise. No more running." She smiled. "Besides, where would I go? This is my home. You're my home. And you're mine." They stood there in the nursery, holding each other, watching their daughter sleep. Outside, the city continued its endless movement, full of danger and possibility. But inside this room, in this moment, everything was perfect. Everything was exactly as it should be. Sung-hyun's phone buzzed. A message from Sang-min. Leilani left the country. Her operations here are officially shut down. "You did it, brother." He showed Delilah the message and watched relief flood her face. "It's really over," she whispered. "It's really over. And now," he smiled, "now we just get to be a family." "Just a family," Delilah repeated, like she could barely believe it. But it was true. The threats were gone, the secrets were over, and ahead of them was just life. Normal, beautiful, complicated life. The kind of life they'd both been too scared to hope for. The kind of life worth fighting for. 6 months passed, and life settled into something Sung-hyun never thought he'd have. Normal. Or as normal as things could be when you ran a criminal organization that you were actively trying to reform. Jasmine was 9 months old now, crawling everywhere, getting into everything. She'd started saying something that sounded like da-da, which made him ridiculously happy every single time. Delilah had started working again, consulting from home, taking video calls while Jasmine napped. She was building back the career she'd abandoned 3 years ago, and Sung-hyun watched her confidence return day by day. The woman who'd been terrified in that courtroom was gone, replaced by someone stronger, and someone who'd survived the worst and came out the other side. But nothing stayed peaceful forever in their world. The call came at 2 in the morning. Sung-hyun's private line, the one only 5 people had access to. He grabbed it before it could wake Delilah. "What?" "We have a problem. It was Min-gi, his security chief. Someone just tried to breach the building's security system. Professional job, almost got through." Sung-hyun was already out of bed, pulling on clothes. "Did they get in?" "No, but they got close enough to worry me. And boss, they were trying to access the residential floors, your floor specifically." His blood went cold. "Where's the intruder now?" "Gone. Disappeared before we could grab them. But they left something behind." Min-gi paused. "A photograph of Jasmine at the park yesterday." Sung-hyun's hand tightened on the phone so hard it creaked. "I'm coming down." "Sung-hyun." Delilah's sleepy voice came from the bed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Go back to sleep." He tried to keep his voice calm, but she was already sitting up, reading his expression. "Don't lie to me." "What happened?" He hesitated, then told her. Watched her face go from sleepy to terrified in seconds. "Leilani," she whispered. "She broke the agreement." "We don't know that yet. Who else would target Jasmine?" Delilah was out of bed now, rushing to the nursery. Sung-hyun followed and found her standing over their daughter's crib, hands shaking. Jasmine was fast asleep, completely unaware of the danger. "Hey," he put his hands on Delilah's shoulders. "She's safe. The building has the best security in the city, but nobody's getting to her. Someone just tried to hack the system, Sung-hyun. They got close." Delilah turned to face him. "What if next time they succeed? What if—" "There won't be a next time. I'm going to find whoever did this and make sure they understand what happens when you threaten my family." Downstairs in the security office, Min-gi had the photograph displayed on multiple screens. It showed Jasmine in her stroller, Delilah pushing her through the park, both of them smiling. Someone had been following them, watching them, close enough to take a clear picture. "Anything on the cameras?" Sung-hyun asked. They knew where all our cameras were positioned, avoided every single one. Min-gi pulled up security footage from the building exterior, but they couldn't avoid the city cameras. "Look." The footage showed a figure in dark clothing approaching the building at 1:47 a.m. Average height, face obscured by a hood. They moved confidently, knowing exactly where to go. At the service entrance, they pulled out some kind of device and started working on the keypad. "Freeze it there," Sung-hyun said. "Zoom in on their hands." Min-gi did. The person's left hand was visible for just a moment, and on the ring finger was a distinctive tattoo. 3 interconnected circles. "That's a Serpent Guild mark," Sung-min's voice came from the doorway. He walked in looking exhausted. "I came as soon as I heard. The Serpent Guild is a syndicate out of Hong Kong. They specialize in, well, everything illegal. But they're known for 2 things specifically: information brokering and kidnapping." Sung-hyun felt his world tilt. So someone hired them to take Jasmine. Looks that way. The photograph was probably meant as proof they could get close. Next step would be ransom demands. Or worse, Min-gi added grimly. The Serpent Guild doesn't always return what they take. Sometimes they sell to the highest bidder. Sung-hyun's vision went red around the edges. "Find them. I don't care what it costs, or who you have to lean on. Find every single member of the Serpent Guild in this city and bring them to me." "Brother," Sang-min said carefully, "maybe we should think about this strategically." "I said, find them." The security office went silent. Sung-hyun never raised his voice. Never. Which meant everyone understood exactly how serious this was. "I'll make calls," Sang-min said quietly. "But Sung-hyun, if someone hired the Serpent Guild, or that someone has a lot of money and a serious grudge, we need to figure out who before they try again. I already know who." Sung-hyun pulled out his phone and dialed a number he'd hoped never to use again. It rang 4 times before a sleepy voice answered in French-accented English. "This is quite early for a social call, Mr. Yoon. Cut the innocent act, Leilani. I know you sent them." There was a pause. "Sent who?" "The Serpent Guild. They tried to breach my building tonight. Left a photo of my daughter as a calling card." His voice dropped to something dangerous. "You broke our agreement." "I did no such thing. Our agreement stands, and I've honored it completely." Leilani sounded genuinely confused now. "I haven't made any moves against your family. Why would I? You have enough evidence to destroy me. I'm not suicidal." "Then who, if the Serpent Guild is involved, you should be looking closer to home." Leilani's voice went serious. That organization doesn't work cheap. Whoever hired them has both money and connections, and they want something from you badly enough to risk taking your child. Sung Hyun ended the call and looked at his brother. She says it wasn't her. Do you believe her? Unfortunately, yes. She's too smart to break an agreement when I have leverage over her. He ran his hand through his hair. Which means someone else wants to hurt me through Jasmine. Your enemies list is pretty long, Sang-min pointed out. Could be anyone you've crossed in the last 5 years. No, it's someone who knows about Jasmine. Someone who knows she exists, and that she's mine. 6 months ago, almost nobody knew. We kept her hidden. Sung Hyun started pacing. Who have we told? Family, your security team, Delilah's friends. Sang-min trailed off. Wait, what about Delilah's friends? Do we know them? Have we vetted them? Sung Hyun's stomach dropped. Delilah had reconnected with her old life after they got back together, had invited some friends over to meet Jasmine. He'd been so focused on making her happy that he hadn't thought to check if those friends were actually trustworthy. He took the stairs 2 at a time back to the penthouse. Delilah was in the living room now, Jasmine in her arms, rocking back and forth even though the baby was still asleep. I need you to tell me about your friends, he said without preamble. The ones you've introduced to Jasmine, everything about them. Delilah blinked. What? Why? Because someone close to us hired people to kidnap our daughter, and I need to know who we can trust. Her face went pale. You think one of my friends? I don't think anything yet. I'm just gathering information. He sat down across from her. Start with the first person you reconnected with after we got back together. That was Simone. We worked together 4 years ago at the consulting firm. She's the one who helped me find apartments when I was hiding. Delilah's voice was defensive. She would never. Where does she work now? Same place, Sterling Consulting Group. Sung Hyun pulled out his phone and texted Mingi to run a background check. Who else? Hudson. He's a friend from university. He's a lawyer, specializes in immigration cases. Very sweet. Very harmless. Nobody's harmless. Who else? They went through the list. 8 people Delilah had reconnected with in the last 6 months. 8 people who'd been to the penthouse, who'd held Jasmine, who knew details about their life. By the time they finished, Sung Hyun's phone was full of names to investigate. You think I led someone dangerous into our home, Delilah said quietly. You think I put Jasmine at risk. I think we both got comfortable and forgot that not everyone is trustworthy. He moved to sit beside her. This isn't your fault, Delilah. We'll figure out who it is and we'll handle it. And what if we don't figure it out in time? What if they try again and succeed? Her eyes were filling with tears. I can't lose her, Sung Hyun. I can't go through that. You won't have to, I promise you. Don't make promises you can't keep. She stood up, but still holding Jasmine. I spent 3 years running and hiding to keep her safe, and now someone's threatening her anyway because of your world, your enemies. Maybe I should have just stayed gone. The words hit him like a physical blow. You don't mean that. Don't I? At least when I was hiding, only Leilani was after me. Now apparently there's a whole line of people who want to hurt us. Delilah's voice cracked. How is this better? It's better because you're not alone. Because we're facing this together instead of you carrying everything by yourself. He stood up. And it's better because I'm not going to let anything happen to either of you. Even if I have to burn this entire city down to keep you safe. Jasmine stirred in Delilah's arms and started crying. The sound broke the tension between them and Delilah immediately started soothing her. She's hungry, Delilah said tiredly. I need to feed her. She walked away to the nursery and Sung Hyun let her go. He understood her fear because he felt it too. But he also knew that running wouldn't solve anything. Whoever was after them would keep coming until they got what they wanted. His phone buzzed. Min Guy. Found something on Hudson Tyson. His law firm declared bankruptcy 2 months ago. He's drowning in debt. Also, his phone records show multiple calls to a number registered in Hong Kong. Sung Hyun's jaw clenched. Hudson, the sweet, harmless university friend who'd been to their home 3 times in the last month, who'd held Jasmine and complimented how beautiful she was, who'd probably been gathering information the entire time. "Where is he now?" Sung Hyun texted back, tracking his location. "Give me 10 minutes. Sung Hyun went to the nursery. Delilah was feeding Jasmine, her face exhausted and worried. He knelt beside her chair. "I think I know who it is," he said gently. "Hudson?" No, Hudson would never." But doubt was already creeping into her voice. "He's been struggling financially, but that doesn't mean his firm went bankrupt. He's in serious debt. And he's been in contact with people in Hong Kong, where the Serpent Guild operates from." Sung Hyun watched her process this. "I'm sorry, Delilah, but I think he saw an opportunity to solve his money problems by selling information about us." Delilah looked down at Jasmine. "I introduced him to our daughter. I trusted him." "I know. What are you going to do?" "Talk to him. So find out who he's working for and what they want. Then make sure he can never threaten us again." He stood up. "Stay here with Jasmine. Don't let anyone in except family and Mingi. Understand?" She nodded, tears sliding down her face. Sung Hyun left the penthouse and headed to the address Mingi had sent him. Hudson lived in a tiny apartment in a rundown part of the city, the kind of place lawyers shouldn't have to live in. When Sung Hyun knocked on the door at 4 a.m., Hudson answered, looking terrified. "Mr. Yoon, I don't know why you're here." Sung Hyun pushed past him into the apartment. "Don't lie to me. How much did they pay you?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "The Serpent Guild. How much did they pay you to give them information about my family?" Sung Hyun's voice was deadly calm. "And before you deny it again, so you should know I have phone records showing your calls to Hong Kong. I have bank statements showing a deposit of $50,000 2 weeks ago. And I have security footage of you taking photographs of my building's layout when you visited." Hudson's face crumbled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't have a choice. My firm collapsed. I lost everything. And then this woman contacted me saying she'd pay my debts if I just gave her some information about Delilah. I didn't know they were planning to—" He stopped, realizing what he'd just admitted. "Planning to what?" Sung Hyun stepped closer. "Kidnap my daughter? Hurt my wife? What exactly did you think they wanted the information for?" "I thought they just wanted to know where Delilah was living. That's all. I didn't know about the baby until later, and by then—" Hudson was crying now. By then they said if I didn't keep cooperating, they'd kill me. They have people everywhere. I'm trapped." "Who's the woman who contacted you?" "I don't know her real name. She calls herself the Orchid, operates out of Hong Kong but has connections here. She said—" He swallowed hard. "She said you took something from her years ago. Someone important. And now she was going to return the favor by taking someone important from you." Someone important. Sung Hyun's mind raced through his past, trying to remember who he might have crossed badly enough that they'd want revenge through his child. Then it hit him. 5 years ago, before he met Delilah, he'd shut down a human trafficking ring that was operating in the city. One of the people running it had been a woman named Lin May, who went by the name the Orchid. He'd turned her over to the authorities, and she'd been sentenced to 15 years in prison, except she'd escaped 2 years ago and vanished. "Lin May," he said flatly. "The Orchid is Lin May." Hudson nodded miserably. "She said you destroyed her operation and took away her freedom. Now she wants to destroy your family and take away what you love most." Sung Hyun pulled out his phone and called Sang Min. "I need everything we have on Lin May. Where she is, who she's working with, how she got back into the country. I need it now." "On it," his brother replied, and hung up. Sung Hyun looked back at Hudson. You're going to help me fix this? How? I'm nobody. She'll kill me. She'll kill you anyway once she doesn't need you anymore. Son, your only chance of survival is helping me stop her before she makes her move. Sung Hyun grabbed Hudson by the shirt. You're going to call her. Tell her you have new information, that Delilah and Jasmine are going to be at the park tomorrow afternoon. Specific time, specific location. You're setting a trap. Obviously. And you're the bait. So you'd better hope my people are faster than hers. The next 30 hours were the longest of Sung Hyun's life. Sang Min and Min Gi set up surveillance at the park, while other members of the organization tracked down every known associate of Lin Mei in the city. They found 3 and brought them in for questioning. 2 didn't know anything useful. The third cracked after 10 minutes and confirmed that Lin Mei was planning something big, but didn't know the details. Delilah stayed in the penthouse with Jasmine and a full security detail. Sung Hyun hated leaving them, but he needed to be at the park when Lin Mei made her move. Needed to see her face when she realized she'd walked into a trap instead of springing one. Hudson made the call at noon, his voice shaking as he told the Orchid that Delilah would be at Riverside Park at 3 p.m. with minimal security. She'd sounded pleased, Hudson said afterward. Excited even. Like she'd been waiting for this opportunity. At 2:30 p.m., Sung Hyun was in position with 30 of his best people scattered throughout the park. From a distance, he watched a woman pushing a stroller with Min Gi walking behind her, pretending to be on his phone. They'd found a decoy who looked similar enough to Delilah to pass from far away. 3 p.m. came and went. Nothing. 3:15. Still nothing. Sung Hyun's phone buzzed. A call from the penthouse security. His heart stopped. Sir, we have a situation. A delivery person just tried to leave a package at your door. Said it was from Hudson Tyson. We stopped them. But when we opened the package, the guard's voice wavered. Sir, it's a bomb. And there's a note that says, wrong park. Sung Hyun's blood turned to ice. Is it active? Our specialist is examining it now. But sir, this person knew exactly which penthouse was yours. Knew that you wouldn't be there. This was planned. Lin Mei hadn't fallen for the trap. She'd seen through it and sent a message instead. She knew where they lived, knew when Sung Hyun would be distracted, and she'd nearly succeeded in getting a bomb into their home. Evacuate the building, Sung Hyun ordered. Get Delilah and Jasmine out now. Take them to the safe house in Incheon. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Already in motion, sir. He ended the call and looked at Sang Min, who'd been listening. She played us, so we play her back, better this time. Sang Min pulled up something on his tablet. While you were setting up this park thing, I had people tracking financial movements connected to Lin Mei. She's been funneling money through shell corporations to fund her operation here. But there's a pattern. Every payment comes from the same source account in Hong Kong. Meaning she's not working alone. Someone with serious resources is bankrolling this revenge scheme, and I think I know who. Sang Min showed him a series of transactions. These payments all connect back to a company called Jade Enterprises. And Jade Enterprises is owned by who? By Leilani Laurent's daughter. Sung Hyun stared at the screen. What? Apparently, Lin Mei and Leilani's daughter met in prison, became friends. When Lin Mei escaped, the daughter helped her get set up with money and connections. Been funding her ever since. Sang Min looked grim. This isn't just about revenge on you. This is about revenge on Leilani, too. Her daughter is using Lin Mei to hurt the people Leilani made peace with, trying to prove she's more ruthless than her mother. That's insane. It's family dynamics in our world. Everyone's trying to prove something. Sang Min closed his tablet. But it gives us leverage. If we can prove the daughter's involvement, we can use it to force Leilani to help shut this down. She won't want her daughter exposed for funding terrorism. Sung Hyun was already moving toward his car. Get me Leilani's number again, and tell our people at the park to pack up. This location's compromised." 20 minutes later, he was on a secure call with Leilani. "Your daughter is funding a terrorist trying to kill my family," he said without preamble. "I have proof. I also have contacts in law enforcement who would love to see that proof. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me where Lin Mei is hiding, and you're going to cut off your daughter's funding immediately, or I burn your whole family down. Your choice." Leilani was silent for a long moment. "My daughter wouldn't." "She would, and she has. Jade Enterprises. Look into it yourself if you don't believe me." More silence. Then, "If what you're saying is true, I need time to verify. You have 2 hours. Then I'm going to the authorities with everything I have." He ended the call and drove straight to the safe house in Incheon. It was an hour outside the city, hidden in a neighborhood where nobody asked questions. Delilah and Jasmine were there, with 6 security guards, and Mingi. Delilah practically threw herself at him when he walked in. Jasmine squeezed between them. When they said there was a bomb, I thought—" She couldn't finish the sentence. I know. He held both of them tighter. "But you're safe. You're both safe." "For how long?" Delilah pulled back. "How long before she tries again?" "Not long. But I'm ending this tonight. One way or another." His phone rang. Leilani. "I verified your information," she said, and her voice was cold as steel. "My daughter has been lying to me for 2 years, using money I gave her to fund this nonsense. You want Lin Mei? She's in a warehouse at the docks, Building 42. I've already called off my daughter's financial support and cut her access to all family resources. How do I know this isn't a trap? Because if I wanted to trap you, Mr. Yoon, I wouldn't need to use Lin Mei to do it. And because—" She paused. "Because I genuinely don't want your family hurt. Despite what you might think, I do have some principles. Children are off limits. Always." Sung Hyun believed her, which showed how twisted his life had become, that he was now trusting Leilani Laurent. "Stay with them," he told Mingi, gesturing to Delilah and Jasmine. "I'm going to finish this." "Like hell you are," Delilah said. "Not alone." "I'm not going alone. Sang-min and 20 others are meeting me there." "Then wait for them. Don't do anything stupid." He looked at her, his wife holding their daughter, both of them safe for now, but only because they were hiding. This wasn't the life he wanted for them. Constantly running, constantly afraid. It needed to end. "I'll be careful," he promised, "and when I come back, we're done with all of this. No more threats, no more enemies. Just us." "How can you promise that?" "Because I'm going to make sure Lin Mei and everyone connected to her understands that my family is permanently off limits. And if they don't—" His expression went dark. "Then they won't be around to try again." Building 42 was empty when Sung Hyun and his people arrived. Too empty. Like someone had cleared out in a hurry, leaving behind evidence of recent occupation. Food wrappers, blankets, technical equipment. "She knew we were coming," Sang-min said, kicking over a chair. "Leilani must have tipped her off. Or her daughter did." Sung Hyun pulled out his phone to call Leilani when he saw it. A laptop sitting on a table, screen still lit up. Open to a video chat program. On the screen was Lin Mei. "Hello, Mr. Yoon," she said in accented Korean. "I expected you sooner." "Where are you?" "Somewhere you'll never find me. But don't worry, I'm not done with you yet. You took 2 years of my life. I'm going to take everything from yours, piece by piece, until you understand what that felt like. You tried to bomb my home. That's not revenge. That's terrorism. Call it what you want. I call it justice." Lin Mei leaned closer to the camera. "That beautiful daughter of yours. Jasmine, right? Such a pretty name. I wonder how she'll grow up knowing her father's choices put her in danger." Sung Hyun's vision went red, but he kept his voice steady. "If you touch my daughter, there won't be anywhere in the world you can hide." Big threats from a man who couldn't even protect his own wife for 3 years. Lin Mei smiled. Leilani Laurent scared Delilah so badly she ran away from you. What makes you think you can protect her from me? Because I'm not the man I was 3 years ago. And because, unlike Leilani, I don't have any limits on what I'll do to keep my family safe. We'll see about that. The screen went black. Sung Hyun stared at the dead laptop. Sang Min put a hand on his shoulder. "We'll find her," his brother said. "She's somewhere in the city. Has to be. She's too invested in this to leave. She's not in the city. She's watching it." Sung Hyun looked up at the warehouse ceiling. "She's somewhere high enough to see everything. Somewhere she feels safe. There are hundreds of buildings. No, there's one. The building Leilani used to own before she sold it last year." Sung Hyun was already moving toward the door. "The high-rise in Gangnam. Perfect view of the entire city, including my penthouse." They drove like maniacs across the city. Sirens and lights be damned. The high-rise was mostly empty, still under renovation from its new owners. Security was minimal. They took the elevator to the top floor and found Lin Mei standing at the window, looking out over the city lights. "You figured it out," she said without turning around. "Faster than I expected. It's over, Lin Mei. To give yourself up and maybe you'll only spend 20 years in prison instead of life." She laughed. "You think I care about prison? I escaped once. I can do it again. And again. And every time I'll come after your family until there's nothing left." "Then I guess I don't have a choice." Sung Hyun pulled out his phone and played a recording. It was Lin Mei's voice from the video chat, threatening Jasmine, admitting to the bombing attempt, confessing to everything. He'd recorded it all. "I'm sending this to every law enforcement agency in 3 countries, he said, "along with your location. Even if you run, they'll find you. And this time, there won't be any escape." Lin Mei spun around, fury on her face. "You're bluffing. Try me." He hit send on the recording. "The authorities will be here in 10 minutes. Son, you can run and spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Or you can turn yourself in and at least have a chance at eventually getting out." "You should have let me take your daughter," Lin Mei hissed. "Would have been cleaner than this. Nobody takes anything from me ever again. That's the lesson here. You, Leilani, whoever comes next. You all need to understand that my family is permanently off limits. Test me and find out what happens." In the distance, sirens started wailing. Lin Mei looked at the window, calculating if she could jump, run, fight. But there were 20 of Sung Hyun's people between her and any exit. "I could have killed you all so many times," she said quietly. "Could have put real bombs instead of fake ones. Could have actually hurt that baby. But I wanted you to suffer first. Or wanted you to feel the fear. And now you're going to feel what I felt when I lost my freedom because of you." She sat down on the floor. "We're even. We're not even close to even. But at least you won't hurt anyone else." The police arrived 7 minutes later. They took Lin Mei into custody, along with all the evidence Sung Hyun had compiled. She'd be charged with terrorism, attempted murder, stalking, and a dozen other crimes. She'd never see freedom again. Sung Hyun watched them take her away and felt nothing. No satisfaction. No victory. Just exhaustion. He'd won, but it had cost weeks of fear and stress for Delilah and Jasmine. That wasn't acceptable. "It's done," Sang Min said. "She's locked up. Her associates are scattered. Your family's safe. For now. But there'll be someone else eventually. There always is. So what are you going to do?" Sung Hyun looked at his brother. "I'm getting out. Completely. You wanted to run the organization anyway. It's yours. I'm taking Delilah and Jasmine somewhere quiet, somewhere nobody knows who we are. We're going to have an actual normal life." "You're serious? Dead serious. I've spent enough time in this world. Time to live in a different one." He drove back to Incheon and found Delilah pacing the living room while Jasmine slept in a travel crib. The moment she saw him, she rushed over. Is she? She's arrested. Multiple charges. Won't be getting out?" He pulled her close. "It's over, Delilah. Really over this time." She sagged against him in relief. "Thank God. Thank God. But I need to tell you something. I'm leaving the organization. Sang-min's taking over. And we're leaving the city. Going somewhere new, somewhere we can start fresh without all this history following us." Delilah pulled back to look at him. "You'd really leave everything behind? Everything that isn't you and Jasmine?" "Yes, absolutely." He cupped her face. "I want a different life. One where our daughter doesn't need bodyguards. Where you don't wake up terrified every morning. Where we're just a family. A normal family." Tears were streaming down Delilah's face, but she was smiling. "Where would we go?" "I was thinking maybe Europe. Small city, quiet neighborhood. I have enough money saved to never work again. We could just exist. Watch Jasmine grow up, grow old together. All the things we should have been doing these last 3 years." "That sounds perfect," Delilah whispered. "That sounds absolutely perfect." 3 months later, they stood in front of a small house in a coastal town in Portugal. The ocean was visible from the front windows, and the air smelled like salt and flowers. Jasmine was walking now, stumbling around the empty rooms with delight. "This is it?" Delilah asked, looking around. "This is home? If you want it to be." She turned to him with that smile that had made him fall in love 5 years ago. "I want it to be. I want all of this. You, me, Jasmine. Just us." "Just us," he agreed. And for the first time in years, Sung-hyun felt peace. Real, genuine peace. No threats looming, no enemies plotting, no secrets weighing them down. Just a family starting over, in a place where nobody knew their names or cared about their past. Jasmine toddled over and grabbed both their hands, in trying to pull them toward the garden. "She wants to explore," Delilah laughed. They followed their daughter outside into the afternoon sun, and Sung-hyun thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The pain, the fear, the separation, the reunion. All of it had been worth it to get here, to get home. And that's really the end of their story. A fresh start in a new country, with nobody chasing them anymore. Sometimes, the best revenge is just living well. You know? Anyway, if this story hit you in the feelings, let me know in the comments, and maybe subscribe for more. These 3 earned their happy ending, and I'm glad we got to see them finally get it.